Drum solos must die. There, I said it. Okay, not all of them, but most drum solos are musical equivalent of watching paint dry, only with way more noise and way less satisfaction. And for every fan who generally enjoys those at a concert, there are a dozen more using this time to grab a beer, hit the restroom, or scroll through their phones. And the problem here is not even the drum solos themselves, but rather the drummers, who can find that fine line between what is actually enthralling and what is plain boring and even annoying. No, seriously, every time I hear a drum solo kicking at a rock show, I remember that scene from This Is Spinal Tap, when Nigel Tufnell breaks out an hour-long guitar solo playing his guitar with a violin bow. Only that was actually really funny. But unfortunately, most of the drum solos today are just some kind of cringe-worthy spectacle. An awkward interlude everyone politely endures, hoping it will end soon so that they can go back to the songs they actually paid to hear. And the sad reality is that most drummers who insist on soloing seem blissfully unaware that the audience's polite applause is less about admiration and more about a relief that the solo is finally over. Here's the thing, many bands for some weird reason still feel the need to fill time at their concerts and show off every member's skill, as if to prove that they are indeed talented enough. And here comes the first major problem with such an approach. The whole show suddenly becomes not about a listener, but about a musician and his need and urge for self-fulfillment, when a good concert is always about giving the best possible show and experience to those who paid the money to see the band. Not the raw skills of a drummer or any other musician, which by the way most of the time is subpar to most of those teenage YouTube sensations, but a finished product good enough to capture and captivate the attention of a viewer who lives in an age where attention spans are shorter than ever and will not be willing to stand through a 10 minutes of relentless banging unless it brings an added value to the whole experience of that concert. And this is a key to a good drum solo. A good drum solo must add something special to the overall concert experience, by the way, just like any of the songs a band includes in its setlist should, but that's a topic for another conversation. One thing we need to understand is that it is virtually impossible to impress a general crowd with just your skill set anymore. They have to be really extraordinary, but even then, that's what the drum clinics are for. And most of the people who come to the concert to enjoy the band's songs don't really care about those. And so the only time a drum solo is appropriate at a metal show is when it is entertaining enough to captivate the crowd. Now, those who were, just like myself, fortunate enough to be able to see Motorhead live know that a Mickey D drum solo was pretty much as stable at all of the Motorhead shows. But even though I personally was able to catch Motorhead live gazillion times at multiple continents, I never ever wanted to skip a Mickey D drum solo. The thing is that a drummer like Mickey D is able to make a drum solo fun, entertaining, and what is most importantly, interactive. While watching Mickey pounding those drums, you feel like you're becoming a part of it, as if you're having a conversation with the drummer, and all of it becomes a part of that big show, the Motorhead show we all loved. But the thing is that such drummers as Mickey D or such bassists as Cliff Burton with his famous bass solos are rather exceptions than the rule. And while I of course love and respect Mickey, in reality I don't consider him being the most skilled drummer to ever walk the earth. Once again, especially with all those YouTube geniuses these days. Although Lemmy of course would not agree with me.
On the drums, the best drummer in the world, Mickey D!
Yet his drum solos are always a logical continuation, which perfectly fits into either a Motorhead or nowadays a Scorpion setlist. Now, the funny thing is that I got an idea for this episode while actually being amazed by a drum solo. I was watching Johnny D, Doors drummer, performing at a Rock Imperium festival, and roughly 3 minutes into his rather extensive drum solo, I got myself thinking, wow, I'm actually really enjoying it. And it's been a very long time since I felt like this about a drum solo at a metal show. And all because that if you are in the crowd, you become an essential part of Johnny's interactive spotlight performance, rather than simply forced to see him flex his muscles for 10 minutes straight. And of course, the two Ds are not the only ones who are able to do it. When we're talking about someone like Mike Portnoy or the late Neil Peart, those guys could easily enchant any fan at the venue with their majestic performances. But the thing is that those performances have nothing to do with the outdated garbage most musicians consider drum solos and which they force-feed the crowd. The thing is that the traditional drum solos come from the 1970s, where first of all, the spread of information was way slower than it is right now, and secondly, the competition was way less than it is today. It was the time when people would go out and see the bands perform at their local clubs and bars pretty much every Friday and Saturday night. That's just what you did. And the individual solos by band members was in fact a way for this particular band to stand out, somewhat to showcase that they are a bit more skillful than their competitors. When today, in 2024, with a massive competition and with a huge amount of bands of any caliber, the music and the performances of which you can easily access with just a simple small device everyone has at their hands, the drum solos simply cannot have the same purpose as they did before. And the thing is that this has been the truth for the past 40 years or so. So if you are in a band, and especially if you are a drummer, and you are about to hit the stage and perform that drum solo of yours, for the sake of your band and even more so for the sake of all of us metalheads around the world, please ask yourself before that, what does this solo give to a listener? Does it have an added value to the overall experience you as a band show at that concert? And if you cannot answer that question, please, for all of our sakes, don't do it, and instead go and rewatch some of the good drum and solos and ask yourself, why does this one stand out compared to everything else? And when you get to that level, when just with your skills you'll be able to entertain the crowd, please come back and wow us all. But anyways, what do you guys personally think about the drum solos? Do you agree with me, or is it me just being an old fart complaining about something? Please let us know in the comments. Oh, and hey, one of the biggest complaints about this channel from many viewers was that I like everything. Here you go. Now you know one thing that I don't like at rock shows. At least at most rock shows I attended. Wow. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!